Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the podcast.
Shift.
Exactly. Based on the latest info from Truth Social, Trump flat out stated that the U.S. is reviewing a possible reduction of troops in Germany. And he said a decision is coming in a short period of time.
Which means the clock is ticking, like right now.
Yeah, it's immediate. But, before we get into the whole political warfare side of things, we really need to establish the sheer scale of what we're talking about. Like, what exactly is on the chopping block here?
Right. And what's fascinating here is that people usually just think of troops sitting in trenches, like they're just waiting on the border to stop an invasion from the east.
Yeah, like it's still 1985 or something.
Exactly. But the U.S. presence in Germany is this massive, highly integrated footprint. It goes all the way back to the end of World War II. It's the logistical backbone for American force projection globally.
Let me just jump in with the raw numbers from the last info we got because it really puts it in perspective. As of last December, we're talking about over 36,000 active duty troops stationed there. Yeah, and that's just active duty. Add in about 1,500 reservists plus another 11,500 civilian personnel working with them. I mean, Japan is literally the only foreign country with a bigger U.S. footprint.
Right, it's huge. And that footprint isn't just infantry, it's Ramstein Air Base. And even more crucially, it hosts the headquarters for EUCOM, the European Command.
Right.
And AFRICOM, the Africa Command, is based in Germany, too.
So it's basically, think of Germany not just as a host country, but as the central nervous system for U.S. military operations across two entire continents.
That is exactly what it is.
But, let me play devil's advocate for a second here. It's 2026, right? We have drones that can fly across the globe. We have all this autonomous tech. Do we actually still need a massive physical base in Germany to project power? Or is it, just a really expensive Cold War hangover?
Well, see, that's the argument you hear a lot from certain policymakers. But it kind of completely misunderstands modern military logistics. Because it's not just about how far a bomber can fly. It's about sustaining those operations, like aerial refueling, or moving millions of pounds of cargo on those massive C-17 planes.
Oh, right. You need huge, secure hubs for that.
Exactly. And even more critically, medical evacuation.
The survival rates, yeah.
Right. Germany has the Landstuhl Regional Medical Center. It's the biggest American hospital outside the U.S. If a soldier is critically injured in the Middle East or Africa, they aren't flying them all the way back to Texas.
No, that would take way too long.
Right. They fly them to Germany to hit that golden hour for trauma care. So if you pull thousands of troops and scale down that footprint, you're not just saving money. You're actively degrading survival rates for American personnel.
Wow. Okay, so if Germany is this critical central nervous system, why would Washington intentionally threaten to take a wrecking ball to it? Like, why right now?
Well, for that, you have to look away from Europe entirely. It's all about the Middle East right now.
The U.S.-Iran war.
Exactly. The Iran conflict is the immediate catalyst here. Historically, the transatlantic alliance is all about unity. But this war has driven a massive public wedge between Washington and Berlin.
Yeah, and it got incredibly personal this week. The German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, just openly blasted the U.S. handling of the war.
He really did not hold back.
No, he went on record saying the Americans have no strategy. He even said the U.S. is being humiliated by Iranian negotiators. Those are just shockingly blunt words from a country that relies on the U.S. security umbrella.
They are. And, you have to ask yourself why Merz would risk antagonizing the U.S. president like that. Like, why bite the hand that feeds you?
Right.
And it comes down to brutal economic reality. Europe is dealing with absolutely spiking energy prices right now.
Because of the oil constraints from the Iran conflict.
Exactly. The Middle East oil exports are choked off. And while the U.S. is somewhat insulated because of its own domestic production,
they can absorb the shock better.
Yeah. But Germany's whole economy relies on heavy manufacturing. Chemicals, industrial machinery, cars, they need massive amounts of cheap energy to survive.
So they're watching their economy basically bleed out to pay for a war they want nothing to do with.
Precisely. Merz is frustrated because his industrial base is collapsing.
But the response from Trump was, just as volatile. He fired back immediately on social media.
Oh, yeah. He didn't let that slide.
No, he accused Merz of thinking it's fine for Iran to get a nuclear weapon. He said the chancellor doesn't know what he's talking about. And then he specifically jabbed at the German economy, basically saying, well, no wonder Germany is doing so poorly economically right now.
It's just wild to see this level of diplomatic friction out in the open. But it really highlights the leverage dynamic here. Washington knows that despite Germany's economic pain, Berlin can't defend itself independently.
It's kind of like a high-stakes landlord-tenant dispute, you know?
That's a good way to put it.
Like, the U.S. is the landlord, providing the high-tech security system for the whole apartment building. Germany is the tenant, and they're furious that the landlord is getting into a huge fight with a neighbor, Iran, and it's causing damage to their apartment.
Right.
But the second the tenant complains, the landlord threatens to just rip all the security cameras out of the walls.
Exactly. And that creates this crazy diplomatic whiplash. Because behind the scenes, European leaders know they are vulnerable. That's why, literally hours before Trump made that post about troop reductions, Chancellor Merz was telling reporters that he and the U.S. president were still on good terms.
Oh, wow. Just trying to play it cool while the walls are actively cracking.
Yeah. They are desperate to keep up the facade of a unified alliance. Because if Europe suddenly has to handle its own defense overnight, it's a financial nightmare for them.
So, okay, the Iran dispute is the spark, but the kindling for all this has been drying out for a long time, hasn't it? I mean, Trump's skepticism of NATO isn't exactly new.
Oh, definitely not. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this goes way back. For years, Washington's main grievance has been that NATO members, especially the wealthy ones like Germany, just don't spend enough on defense.
Right, the whole argument that they're using American taxpayers to subsidize their security.
Exactly, so they can fund their own domestic social programs instead.
Yeah, and the rhetoric in the recent news has escalated way beyond just asking them to up their budgets. Trump actually called NATO a paper tiger recently, specifically because they didn't join the U.S. in the war with Iran.
Yeah, that was a heavy statement.
And he's threatened to leave the alliance altogether. But here's where it gets really interesting. If the 2023 law blocks the president from officially leaving NATO, is drastically reducing the troop footprint in Germany a strategic workaround to force Europe's hand?
Oh, that is exactly what it is. It's the ultimate strategic loophole.
Wait, really? Explain that a bit more.
So think about the 2023 law. Lawmakers passed it to prevent any U.S. president from withdrawing from NATO without congressional approval.
Right, you need a 2/3 Senate majority now.
Exactly. They wanted to legally bind the U.S. to the treaty. But that law only protects the piece of paper. It says the U.S. is still a member of NATO officially. But the president, as commander-in-chief, has almost total authority over where military assets are actually physically deployed.
Oh, so you don't actually have to tear up the NATO treaty?
No.
You just pull all the soldiers, the planes, the logistics hubs that would actually enforce the treaty.
Exactly. A treaty doesn't mean anything if the force posture isn't there to back it up. By threatening to pull thousands of troops out of Germany, the executive branch is signaling they can hollow out the reality of NATO without ever asking the Senate for a single vote.
That is wild. And based on the latest info, this exact lever has been pulled before, right? Like, this isn't a brand new tactic.
No, we've seen this playbook. Back in 2020, during the end of his first term, Trump announced plans to pull about 12,000 troops out of Germany. And the justification was the exact same. He called them delinquent on their defense spending.
But that withdrawal didn't actually end up happening, did it?
No, it didn't. It faced huge bipartisan pushback in Washington. People thought it was just handing a gift to global adversaries. So the Pentagon kind of slow-rolled the process, and then Joe Biden completely reversed it before the troops actually left.
Right. But we did see some troops leave more recently, didn't we? Last fall, there was an update about 700 troops returning from Germany, Romania, and Poland.
Yeah, but that's a perfect example of how messaging matters. When those 700 troops came home, the military went out of its way to calm everyone down. They put out statements calling it a deliberate process to balance forces.
They were doing damage control.
Exactly. They explicitly said, this is not a withdrawal and it is not a sign that we are less committed to NATO. They wanted to make sure deterrence was maintained.
Because if adversaries think you're leaving, they might make a move.
Right. Deterrence relies entirely on certainty. Your enemies need to be certain that if they cross a line, the response will be overwhelming.
But the messaging we are seeing today is the exact opposite of that certainty.
Precisely. Floating troop reductions on social media introduces massive uncertainty. And they are using that uncertainty as a weapon to pressure allies. They want to scare Germany into getting in line on Iran and spending more on defense.
But playing games with uncertainty on that scale is incredibly risky, isn't it? I mean, treating the entire central nervous system of the U.S. military like a bargaining chip.
Oh, it changes the calculus for every nation on the board.
Right. If you downgrade Rammstein, if you weaken EUCOM and AFRICOM, you're not just punishing Germany's economy, you're shifting the entire balance of global power.
Which brings up the most crucial question in all of this. If the U.S. intentionally scales back its presence and creates a massive security vacuum in Europe, especially right now, with energy crises and global conflicts boiling over who or what steps in to fill that vacuum.
Yeah, that is a big question, because in geopolitics, vacuums never stay empty for long. We'll be watching very closely to see who makes the next move. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to this deep dive, and we invite you to check out the other podcasts on our channel. See you next time.